Hola. Turn the music down in my ear so I'm not yelling at y'all. Petition for a Jeff sound. I will bribe you with a gift sub if you make it happen and name it something rage. That is a great idea, sis. I hadn't thought about that. We'll get my crack team on it and see what we can do. What's up, everybody? I'm just I have to post to the social media to let people know that I'm live. Aww. CFE's birthday cake. How adorable. Just, you know, stalking my sister's post. Let me do this proper. Okay, cool. Just making sure this isn't creating volume. I guess we should smile for the camera, huh? Hold on. Oh, I want to check this out later. That seems kind of interesting. Okay, so I need to use my actual camera because using the Instagram camera always kind of blows chunks. Yeah, let's light up the background. That's the wrong remote. I still remember how to do this. Oh no. No. Oh, that one's not going to work for you either, huh? Oh. There we go. We found one that works. I kind of fuck with that. Let's stick with that. That's fun, lady. There we go. Can I reverse this image without it looking terrible? Let's see. That would be under edit. Oh, sorry. Now back to the Instagram. What do I want to do? We'll say. Where's the oh no, don't tell me I've forgotten how to like add a link. Here we go. Here we go. I just haven't streamed. All right, here we go. Hold on, y'all. I got this. Yeah, I got this. All right, so. You know what? Just to be safe, we'll do it this way. Twitch.tv. This seems right. Oh. Oh, well, that looks pretty good. I'm not mad at that. Here's what. If I could spell today, looks like. All right, let me mute my mic for just a second. I was laughing because I was gonna mute my mic so I could make this post, but then I realized I forgot how to mute my mic. Also, I think I have the. Hold on. Testing. There we go. Yeah, I'd like the AI voice filter thing on, which I don't need. All right. Sometimes that thing can make me sound very sometimes it can make my voice sound robotic. Because it's like this thing has its own filter, but then like I already have filter settings in my streaming software, so sometimes it's just like fucks with things. But yeah, I was gonna mute my mic, but then I was like, what? I have a button for this. Which button is it? So I was just like, I'm just gonna scroll and do this manually. And then I got distracted as I normally do. Hold on, y'all. Hold on, y'all.
Wait a minute. How did this happen? We're smarter than this. Apparently not.
Well played. Well played. Oh, Always happy to hear Obi-Wan and Anakin. Oh, there it is. I did not color code my mic. Let's set that fucking straight right away. There we go. It's a nice, like, rock star red so I can see it. Alright, one sec. I was gonna try and find it. I swear to God, I was gonna try and find it, but I was just like, I don't remember which button it was. I don't have it properly labeled. Anyways, here we are. Let's go ahead and go to the more visible screen. What's up, everybody? Oh my God. What's up, everybody? My name is Phil Special Meter. Welcome in. If you are new, welcome back if you're returning. We're gonna do a very quick in real life stream today. Just a little quick update. I can't hang around for too long because I have an appointment to get to. I suppose that's a good segue into today's events and what we have going on with a fundraiser. So I need to actually pull up the link here. Ruby isn't AI. That part. In this crazy world, you do need that. Do I still have this music? Yeah, I still do. Hold on. It's still too a little too up in my ear. There we go. There we go. That's a good volume for me. But yes, your resident hard mode gamer and stubborn underdog streamer is doing a fundraiser for myself. This is new territory for me. I've never really done a fundraiser for me before. It's kind of an uncomfortable undertaking. Thankfully, I've had such good examples of it before. Shout to my sis Rowdy Ray Ray, and other members of the community, Gothic Neko Chan, etc. We've done fundraisers for the Sickle Cell Disease Association of America when I was partnered with Bestie Milo for Tactile TK. We did a fundraiser for a Cayenne Wellness Center, also supporting sickle cell patients here in California on this channel. And we've promoted fundraisers for Neko, for Ray Ray, for NAMI, which was a fundraiser that the homie Drado was doing on his channel back in the day. Supporting mental health, supporting personal well-being, giving more visibility to people living with disabilities. It's the type of community we have, and I want to say thank you so much for everybody in this community for showing up for those things. Those contributions, and even just having eyes and ears on it has made a huge difference. My fundraiser on this channel for Cayenne Wellness wasn't like a big financial, success, but it was successful in raising some funds, which is always a win, always a dub. Cue the Final Fantasy fanfare, which is a bad mashup right now with everything I've got going on. But yeah, we were able to raise some funds for that. But the big thing for that event, the big takeaway I walked away with was so many people just didn't know what sickle cell anemia was. So many people just had so many questions about well, how do you help? And, what do you do? And it was really great to be able to field those questions with the help of lots of support from friends and family members and professionals in the healthcare field. Shout out to my adoptive mom, Peg. She was great at breaking down her experience as a nurse practitioner, running a pain and palliative care program where she dealt with a lot of people with chronic illness and helped a lot of sickle cell patients, including myself, yours truly. And there is Rowdy Ray Ray was a great resource. I always think of Ray Ray when I was think of you, sis, when I was putting all this together, because I'm just it's hard for people to understand what chronic illness is. It's hard for people to understand what disabilities look like. And I always remember that, shout out to sis, she used to have a team she worked with. She separated for different creative reasons, but she had a team she worked with called Non-Visible back in the day, which was designed to help people with disabilities be more visible and supported at conventions. She would go to all these anime conventions and what have you. And she and that organization were able to have these panels and have these conversations and have these things that they could do to make conventions more accessible, which I thought was really fucking dope. And I always loved that particular name because non-visible is a perfect succinct way to describe the lack of visibility for people with disabilities in this country and throughout the world, but also not just the lack of representation and being seen, but the fact that disabilities in themselves look different. Sometimes people with disabilities are, they are in wheelchairs, or maybe they have walkers or canes, or maybe they, have a blind seeing eye dog, or maybe they have something very identifiable as like, oh, they're disabled. And then other times disabilities look like this. Here I am. I look younger than I actually am. I have a very, I have a pretty energetic and boisterous voice. I look very lively. Um, the infamous, you don't look sick, which people think is a compliment, but isn't. Nonetheless, you can't see my disabilities. You can see traces of them if you look closely enough. My eyes are probably a bit jaundiced today. They might even be a little bit red, which I want to reassure you has nothing to do with, what I've got going on right now. Is everything to do with the fact that I am incapable of showering without getting shampoo in my eyes. I cannot fucking tell you this enough. I am incapable of showering without. I've literally switched to a no tears shampoo, and I still get that shit all up in my eyes, and my eyes end up looking red and bloodshot, and like I've been crying for hours. We're gonna copy this link. That's what we came here to do. Um, so yeah, like I definitely wanted to say that, like, yeah, I do have, visible traces of the, conditions I live with. But I mean, to the average person, when I'm walking the streets, when I'm going to school, when I'm at work, when I'm on stage, when I'm on camera, most people are just like, oh yeah, he's like a fit, like, 30 something, dude. So yeah, I definitely think it was a great name. It was a great, like, saying, I am saying, where's the no tears conditioner, the OMG. Yeah, I use a combination. I think it's like, which company makes this? I don't think it's Johnson& Johnson. Fuck. Fuck, we're gonna go get this. This is an important question to answer. Hold on. All right. Nah, I thought so. Okay. So I got you, sis. Now, the truth is, combination shampoo conditioners, are kind of like, the spork of hair care, in the sense that, like, they're not as good as a straight up shampoo or a straight up conditioner, but they'll get both jobs done. I use Aveeno Kids. If you can see this, I use a children's shampoo because I'm just incapable of not getting this shit in my eyes. So, Aveeno Kids 2-in-1 hydrating shampoo and conditioner. By the way, we are not sponsored. Hard Mode Selected nor Phil Special Meter is sponsored. Um, I just, I had used adult shampoos like up until like a couple of months ago. I just got sick of it. I was just like, I just torturing myself. It's fine. My hair doesn't require like tons of maintenance, mostly because I usually, get the fade going. So like I don't like having to mess with too much hair. Shout out to you, sis, by the way. I know you've got a lot of great hair growth since way back when. So shout out to you and your long, luscious locks. Um, I just wish they would just call it gentle, because lots of people use kids. No, it's true. It's true. There's a lot of stigma against that. Not sponsored. Please sponsor him, Avito. Neko, how's it going? Also, by the way, shout out to you. I saw that I didn't really get to like listen in, but like I know that you and your brother had something going on Goth Noodles. So the road to $2,000, I think. So shout out to y'all. Whatever you've got going on. Always glad to see that, and always glad to support wonderful people. So what was it? Let's see. Um, Man's posing like he tried to get a Tinder date. Meanwhile, any Valentine's Day plans, Uzi. Always so subtle, slipping that stuff in. Also, yes, it is Friday the 13th. No, I'm not. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not gonna do the Jason Voorhees sound effect. But yes, it is Friday the 13th. I will be back on later in case you gotta go, or in case you're disappointed that this stream is going to be extremely short. But I wanted to update y'all. I was talking about fundraisers. Yes, this is how my brain works. Back to my I have no idea what he's raising money for. Yeah, I will. All right. Whoops. We do be be ADHD in here. That's okay. That's okay. I will. I'll make sure there's some sort of clippable version of this later. But anyways, yes, we've done a lot of fundraisers here for other people, other causes, which is all the same cause. It's really in support of community. It's in support of uplifting people with positivity, and giving people a reasonable chance at this life. Like capitalism is not just, and it's not kind, but we can be. And I just want to say thank you to the community for that. It's been fucking dope. Like I said, throughout these fundraisers, we've been able to raise awareness, educate people, do all kinds of cool stuff. But today, now, we are raising funds for yours truly. So Phil Special Meter, which is my handle, but also it's also the channel. But me, Phil, the guy, I live with multiple chronic illnesses, correct? We've talked about some of them before. We have never talked about all of them in detail. Throughout the next week or so, we probably will go in on those specific details. But today, I just wanted to let you know that basically, if you go to this website link, hold on, let me title this something. Hold on one second. PSM. There we go. And then we will post the link. I have to remember to do things. There we go. Huzzah. And then we will pin that? Pin it. Yeah. Yeah, we remember how to use this technology. We have the technology. All right, cool. We did it. We did it, y'all. We did it. All right, so we got there. So anyways, so right now, I live in Los Angeles. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment in downtown Los Angeles. Not the most affordable thing. I had a roommate up until June of last year. And then my roommate, shout out to Ellen, we had to go our separate ways. So I've just been like trapped in this, apartment that I can't really afford. And I've been plagued by chronic illness conditions that have just spiked and gotten much more aggressive with every passing month, seemingly. So with my health conditions, obviously this has led to situations where I could not work. Even the work I would normally do from home became insurmountable. I started getting migraines. I started getting, greater episodes of fatigue that were more intense and lasting for longer. Physical weakness. And of course the traditional stuff that comes with sickle cell anemia as well, which some of that is fatigue and weakness, and then some of that is also pain episodes and things of that nature. So I was just kind of like going through it, and kind of making things work. And it got to a point where this was no longer sustainable, and I knew this was coming. And I tried to troubleshoot it, well in advance. I tried. I tried to, I saw Uzi's comment. I tried to, really get ahead of it, top of last, 2025. I really was already talking to my landlords and was like, look, this is going to happen. What are my options? Yada, yada. Turns out there were none. Because, landlords are such sweet people. And so, I was just trying to figure out, like, I worked with a housing coordinator. Shout out to the Cayenne Wellness Center. Cayenne Wellness Center, one of the organizations we've raised money for. They support, individuals and families who have sickle cell anemia, and they have a housing coordinator. I've been working with her to try and find something that I can afford. all year long, 2025. Nothing really worked out. By the end of 2025, like by the fall, really, like circa October, it was very apparent that like my landlord's like, you gotta get the fuck out, and so I'm like, okay, word. There were legal proceedings. There was a whole bunch of shit that happened while I'm still going to the hospital for treatment every month and getting all sorts of stuff done. In the midst of all of that, so I've got like court proceedings. I'm dealing with landlords. I'm, trying to find a new place to live. I'm trying to, work or generate income where I can. And yeah, I'm very sick. And then I have an episode one day where I was just doing normal shit, sitting here in this room, and then I started to have really, blurry vision. I started to have like a white flashing, like pulsating, like almost like an overlay, kind of like I have the digital overlay, on either side of me here. It was like this overlay of just like white light, and I could see everything in the room, but there was just like this, the center of my vision, this white flashing light was going off. And then I had like more floaters all of a sudden. Like I always had floaters. I shouldn't say always, but like for a long time I've had floaters. They're mostly benign. They don't do a whole lot of anything, but like it was just like suddenly there was an increase. And I was like, what the fuck is this? This fucking sucks. But I was like, I was already predisposed to having migraines. So I thought like, okay, this is probably a migraine. I'm just go take a nap. Let me turn off the TV. Let me turn off the video games. And let me just lay down and take a nap. I woke up from my nap. It wasn't better. It persisted. So I called my medical team, yada, yada, yada. I get back in with an ophthalmologist. Now, when you have sickle cell anemia, you see an ophthalmologist, or at least it's highly recommended you see an ophthalmologist once a year to make sure that sickle cell anemia doesn't sabotage your eyesight, which it can. I had seen my ophthalmologist earlier that year, in 2025, last year. But I had to go back when this episode happened. And basically, after 3 different imaging tests, they showed me pictures of my eyeballs, and they're like, okay, so here's here's your eye. And like, you notice how like there's like all these white strands that are lit up like Christmas. Like, yeah. They're like, yeah, that's your retina. That shit's great. They're like, you notice how on the outside of your eye, it's pitch black. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, there's supposed to be lit up retina there too. I'm like, oh. And so what they explained to me is that I had bilateral proliferative sickle cell retinopathy, which means that the damaged red blood cells in my body finally sabotaged my eyesight. As it's just something we tried to stay on top of my entire life. My mom was very adamant. Shout out to mom. Shout out to original OG biological mom who raised me. She was great about making sure always see an ophthalmologist once a year. I'm like, okay. So with sickle cell anemia being a blood disorder, it's basically a disease where your red blood, a high percentage of your red blood cells end up deformed and therefore non-viable. So you have like nice, soft, round, squishy red blood cells. They're very huggable, and then a certain percentage of mine don't end up like that, and instead end up, as the name implies, crescent moon shaped or sickle shaped, right? And they're rigid, and they are malformed, and they don't do their jobs properly, which means that they don't. Well, they cause a lot of problems. One is that because they're rigid, and because of their shape, they will often get latched onto each other, which can lead to blood clots, which can cause stroke, heart failure, et cetera, fuck up your entire internal systems. But also, commonly, they just get pulled in different directions as they travel through your bloodstream, which causes pain episodes. These are known as sickle cell pains, sometimes referred to as a sickle cell pain crisis if it's like a full-blown pain episode that needs hospitalization and is hard to manage from home. So, all that to say, let me hold on. Gotta plug in my headset. All that to say, there's lots of complications that are caused by sickle cell anemia by itself, and fucking hook to the USB port. No, hook to my PC headset. Headset. Hold on. This is all good and normal. This is all part of streaming. Everything's supposed to break. That's how it's done. It's how the pros do it. And I'm a professional, damn it. Okay, yeah, I guess because it's connected by USB or whatever. In any case, I'm gonna test this real quick to make sure I can hear things. Oh, but why would you? Why would it not? Hold on. You know what? Fuck it. I don't need to hear. In any case, so yeah, with the damaged red blood cells, you know, my body reproduces these deformed red blood cells. It's basically a mutation. I'll explain all of my conditions in greater detail in a later stream, but the synopsis is, you know, basically in Africa, malaria was a huge problem back in the day. And so as an evolutionary response, a certain portion of the population developed these sickle cells, these sort of malformed red blood cells. As an evolutionary response to malaria, it provided those individuals an opportunity to survive malaria. Malaria, you know, which is traditionally transmitted by mosquito bite, loves your blood, loves to go after your blood and attach itself there. And when you have like a certain percentage of damaged red blood cells, malaria goes, oh, this fucking sucks. I can't live here. And then basically dies out or moves out or whatever. But with that, those individuals ended up with sickle cell trait, which is what both of my parents had. Shout out to my dad, may he rest in peace, and shout out to my mom, who's still here with us. They each had sickle cell trait, and what happens when two people with trait, you know, procreate is that there's a high percentage chance that their offspring will develop a mutation known as sickle cell disease or sickle cell anemia. In my case, sickle cell anemia genotype SS. There are multiple types of sickle cell disease. I have SS, as does my older brother. And basically, the disease sucks because not only does it not protect you from malaria, our immune systems are so lowered that malaria would walk right in unasked. But also, it gives you this host of other problems. High altitudes are no bueno. Extreme heat and extreme cold are no bueno. You know, basically, even if you do all the right things, you stay hydrated, you stay at an even temperature, you don't overexert yourself, you get lots of fresh oxygen and love, and you live in a low stress environment. You can do all the things right, and just because your blood's fucked, it'll just kind of attack you anyways. So these are important things to know. So in any case, as it relates to my eyesight, because of this damage, you know, oxygen, you know, blood is like the lifeblood of the body. And so it carries oxygen to all your different parts to make sure that they function. And when a certain part of your body does not get enough oxygen, well, it starts to die. And so this is what would happen when I saw this imaging of my eyeballs. Essentially, at the center, where everything that was lit up are my retina that were live and vibrant and working. And that's great because that's the macula, that's the center of my vision. So I can still see right now. But the outer areas that are more aligned with my peripheral vision, those areas that were not showing up on imaging, essentially they weren't dead, but they are dying. And they can't be salvaged. Once retinopathy sets in, it just does what it does. There's nothing I could do to there's nothing I can do to prevent this, really. I asked a bunch of questions, and I was like, hey, like, you know, did I sleep face down for too long? Or like, have I spent too much time in front of screens, you know, as a streamer and whatever? Like, did I do anything that would have accelerated this or caused this? And they're like, nah, this is just the sickle cell doing what it does. So sickle cell anemia basically, you know, with it not getting oxygen to the blood vessels in my eyes, I started to form abnormal blood vessels, and this caused damage to the retina. The retina got starved of oxygen and began to die. This is something that's, you know, like happens to sickle cell patients pretty frequently. It's pretty common. Other versions of this are like For example, I have avascular necrosis in both shoulders. So same deal, right? The bone matter in my shoulders did not receive enough oxygen at some random point, and so with that, the bone in both of my shoulders started to die. It's a section. It's not like the whole thing. So have you tried not being more of a sickle cell? What about yoga insist? You're killing me right now. No, it's so funny. It's so funny. It is kind of what people end up saying without meaning to. But yeah, anyways, so when blood doesn't, oxygen doesn't get to the right places, of your body, that part starts to die. It's just how we're designed as people. And so, my shoulders are okayish. Like I know that for many people, whether you're usual or regular of the channels that I'm on, or whether or not you're used to seeing me like on film or on stage or in real life, you're like, but you're so active. Look at you. You do stunts and martial arts and all sorts of stuff. I'm like, yeah. That's a part of having a disability. You can still have a life. You can still do things, but it's just there's the cost is different. And and it hits different. And so every once in a while, I do really well with my impairments, but every once in a while I have to go in for physical therapy. My shoulder, I'll wake up, some days I'm just, punching away. And then other days I wake up and I'm like, oh, it's not going to do it today. and then, I go in for physical therapy and we work the muscles and tissue around the damaged bone matter and we strengthen them back up and I'm, fighting fit. But anyways, so yeah, I didn't get enough of the proper oxygen to the blood vessels in my eyes. They became abnormal and they caused damage, and my retina that is around my peripheral vision started to die. I still have some peripheral vision. In fact, thankfully, I think this is kind of wood. Thankfully, the damage has been so minimal at this point that the amount of peripheral vision that I've lost is, not very noticeable. In fact, I probably wouldn't have known any difference if I didn't have this whole flashing light episode in my eyes. So it's minimal at this point. Basically today, literally today, I am going in to the ophthalmologist, and we are going to have another evaluation, and most likely before the session is over, we are going to use a laser to burn off the dead retina. You sort of like cauterizing a wound. You just sort of go, this stuff that's happening, to the peripheral vision in my eyes will spread without a doubt if I don't do something. When I had this appointment last October, I was told, look, this isn't urgent. This isn't immediate, but what you need to do is have this laser treatment somewhere within the next 4 months. We're in February, that was October, so we're right at the edge. I did try to have this done sooner, but I had an ophthalmologist assigned to me that just wasn't very responsive, and I had tons of questions because it's my eyesight and I kind of want to keep it. And so I was like, hey, is there things I need to be doing ahead of time? What does recovery look like? How long will this stuff be affecting me? I know that my vision will be blurry for a bit after the procedure. How long will that last? Also, I have to factor in that I have sickle cell anemia, so with a normal patient, with any type of surgery or laser procedure, somebody might recover at a normal rate. My recovery might be twice or 3 times that, right? It just might take me longer. So I'm just I need to know because I need to move because I have to leave. I have to vacate my apartment. So these things that I had questions about weren't being met. So I canceled that appointment with that particular doctor. I was like, no, fuck this. We may only get one shot at this, so I want to make sure it's done right. I found a new doctor. He's much more communicative. He took the time to have a phone call with me about what these things will look like. And I just need to know so I can function because I'm in the middle of moving. Catch you later, Uzi. I'm in the middle of moving and like doing other things. I also like make my revenue off of streaming and doing things that I've traditionally relied on my eyesight to do. Of course, you can always adjust. There's life after sight. I am not without a sense of humor about this. I am rocking today's fit, which is Daredevil. Shout out to the homie Matt Murdock. Love that guy. There are ways to be. I love the character for a lot of reasons, but there are. I love that he's to me he's good representation of disability because, his disability is never treated like. His disability is never treated like the source of his tragedy. The thing that caused his disability, the events and the systemic issues that caused him to have accidental blindness, are things that keep him up at night. But the blindness itself is never depicted as like I hate my life or I'm sad because I can't see. Like it's never been how the character's been portrayed. And I love the fact that, he's also just resistant to oppressive systems. He's just has it in his blood to fight back against oppression and cruelty. And much like his father, he gets knocked down, he can take a beating, and he just will not yield. He will always get back up. And I feel like I take that from my father as well. And shout out to my mom as well, because she's also a fighter, So, I feel like that's something that always resonated with me about the character. He likes giving out those hands, and I always had a penchant for that too, growing up. So, the character means a lot to me for a lot of reasons. I know some people have put him under fire as bad representation for disability. Some people say he's good. Stan Lee got criticisms and props for creating the character and co-creating the character. And I just wanted to say, look, it depends on how he's depicted. I think there have been some depictions of his superhuman abilities that make it seem like he's not blind anymore, which is inaccurate. To take a quick side note, Matt Murdock is not very different from Toph from Avatar: The Last Airbender. Both of them are completely blind. They have no vision. But they have extrasensory abilities that allow them to navigate the world in an unconventional manner that most people who are blind would not be able to do. Yes, when you lose a physical sense or trait that you rely upon heavily, typically the body, the brain, try to compensate. And it will heighten your other senses. But you have to understand Matt Murdock and Toph in Avatar exist in fictional universes where people have superhuman abilities that a normal person would not have. For Matt, his abilities of touch, taste, smell, and hearing are heightened to a superhuman degree. And you have to remember he's hit by toxic chemicals in the eyes. And in comic books, toxic chemicals in the eye is like super magic powers. This is the same universe where gamma radiation turns you into a giant green range monster. A radioactive spider gives you spider powers instead of, killing you or sending you to the ER. This is not the real world. So with characters like Matt Murdock and Toph, because she's an earthbender and she can feel the vibrations of the world better. There are things that they can do that average, ordinary folk can't do just because they, inherent blindness, whether they're born blind or they develop blindness over time. And so what I like about the character is that ultimately, when depicted accurately, and there's some bad writers out there. So some people have described his abilities as having a radar sense. And because comic books are a visual medium, they represent this visually. And so it makes it seem like he just has a second sight that's shittier than normal sight, but he can still see shapes and all this other stuff, which to be fair. There are degrees of blindness. My sister is legally blind. Not everybody. It's not like pitch black or visibility are the only options. There are degrees of, what blindness looks like. You can be legally blind. Matt Murdock is not legally blind. He cannot see at all. And in the best writings, they've described what his quote unquote radar sense really is. And so what it is his brain, and this is depicted perfectly in I think it's episode 5 of the Netflix series. There's an episode called World on Fire. And basically they describe that basically he doesn't see, right? But like what happens is his heightened senses of, smell, taste, touch, and hearing inform him in an almost echolocation kind of way of where things are. And I know bats are not literally blind, though I would argue bats are legally blind. Like they have eyesight, but their eyesight's not great, folks. Like if you had a person suddenly develop bat level eyesight, you would not want them driving your taxi. I'll put it to you that way. So I know people like to split hairs and go, actually they're not blind. I'm like, well, actually they really don't see particularly well. So if they had to function as a human being in our society, we would consider them legally blind. But that's just me. In any case, bats and dolphins use echolocation, right? They rely on, dolphins can even see, but they just rely on other senses to better inform their environment. That's all Matt Murdock does. He's literally he's Marvel's answer to Batman. So it's sort of like, that's the joke. He has echolocation. He's kind of like a bat. So like he's, again, he doesn't see anything. But what he does is based on the information in his brain, he will kind of, his imagination will kind of come up with like an approximation of where things are, shapes and objects and stuff. Like, cause he started off with visibility and like he suddenly lost his eyesight. So, he still imagines and, shapes and things like that. So in the world, like, in World on Fire, it was a great episode. They give you kind of a brief visual representation of it. See, I think like the 2003, even though I love the Ben Affleck movie in 2003, it gave people this sense of like, oh, well, he just sees, but it's like code vision in the Matrix. It's like, no. So like what I love about the Netflix series is that most of the time you're not seeing things from Matt's perspective. But they give you in that one episode, like a couple of glimpses into like how he imagines the world around him. And it's not pretty. And it's not accurate, but it gives him enough of an idea of like, okay, that's, he doesn't know what his best friend Foggy Nelson looks like, but he's like, I know how he smells like, I know how his footsteps sound. I get a sense of his weight and mass based on like the way he moves and operates. And so like he has this sort of like outline perception in his brain of like what the shape of him is, but he doesn't actually see him. And he's not actually seeing any of it. It's just sort of his brain trying to come up with a visual cue or like an idea of what like the world around him is. And so I think there's been a lot of shitty writers that made it seem like he has a second vision. And it's like, well, then he's not blind anymore. And that kind of fucking ruins the character. So let me catch up on what my sis is saying. But let me also wrap up succinctly. Let me see what time it is. Where we're at. Oh, yeah, I still got a little bit of time. So all that to say, I am not without a sense of humor. So I thought I'd rock this shirt today. But today we're going in for the ophthalmology appointment. Most likely we might do one eye at a time because my history with surgical procedures and lasers and things of that nature has not been great as a sickle cell patient. Sickle cell patients get this done all the time. Most sickle cell patients get both eyes treated in the same appointment because they just don't want to have to deal with the hassle of coming back. I'm like, I'm not fucking around. I'll do one eye. We'll see how it goes. Then we'll do the other eye. Also, it'll allow me to still like function because if everything goes as planned, right, as we hope, then they'll burn off the dying retina. The macula and everything else will still be intact. I'll still have vision. Before the process to work, they have to dilate my eyes. So that means for like X number of hours, I'm going to have blurry, like, like vision anyways, right? Pretty standard, like eye appointment type stuff. And so just in the case of that, because I live on my own and I have to manage, kind of myself. Um, I don't have anyone to go with me and yada yada. So like I need to make sure that like I can still like see out of one eye. I think is a practical thing to do. And until that wears off, and then we see how well it worked and yada yada. But ultimately, the surgery is designed to basically kill the dying parts so that the death doesn't spread, right? And so ideally, this will preserve the eyesight that I still have. My peripheral vision, that which is already lost is lost, and it shouldn't, after the procedure, it shouldn't be too different than how I'm seeing things now. To go back a few paces, yes, of course, Sis is right. You absolutely live a full life if you're blind. It's not like the end of the world, and I think there are depictions in pop culture of like blindness being the ultimate ill fate. But as somebody who lives with multiple disabilities already, I don't know. I don't know what it is to live a quote unquote normal life and function as a regular healthy human being. So I don't really have a lot to compare to. All I do know is that over time, my conditions do take faculties from me, and it does feel a lot like losing ground and losing a certain amount of choice or freedom in the way that I like to operate. I came out of the womb having to do things that most people just don't have to do, and dealing with things that most people just don't have to think about in order to exist in the world. And it is irritating and even angering over time to continue to add more to that list of things. I've always really liked being able to experience all the light and color and shape the world has to offer. As you notice, my set is always lit up with fun, fancy colors and whatnot. Vision has been a very like central thing to me, and yes, I can admit in full transparency that from early childhood, the idea of going blind was it's a huge phobia. Yes, I'm aware it happens to people. Yes, I'm aware people survive even with it, and no, my life will not end if I go blind. However, I was a kid who was afraid of the dark, so like the idea of losing vision was like just always terrifying to me. To lose some vision is still kind of scary, but like ultimately it's manageable, and we have ways to deal with it. And for the time being, it seems like most likely we'll stop this where it is, and life will go on. And if one day my eyesight does give out, then we'll recalibrate from there. It's no different from the time I had foot drop because I had nerve damage thanks to being mistreated at a hospital. There is just no different from the fact that I have some male pattern baldness in the back of my head. It's no different from the fact that I've had changes in my overall athleticism and physical fortitude over the years. It's no different from having to adjust to the shoulders. It's no different from having to adjust to changes in my brain. Some of my conditions are neurological. Some of my conditions are psychiatric. All in all, it says all this in the link to my fundraiser, but I have over 7, just off the top of my head. There were at least 7 conditions that plague sort of my existence. I have 7 different conditions off the top of my head, and then some that any one of them by themselves, at the degree at which I experience them, would be considered a disabling condition. So like, if I just had sickle cell anemia, that'd be more than enough. But I don't. And all of my conditions are like that. Like any one of them can completely derail the natural order of someone's life. And so, I think I carry them well. And like I said, I'll never stop having a sense of humor about all of it. Life chooses to be funny. So it was fun to like rock this t-shirt today and be like, yeah, like, having vision issues, and I've spent a lot of time in court last year, and I'm fighting the fight every day. But ultimately I'm pretty optimistic. I really do believe that there's one of my favorite quotes from a Fallout Boy song. It comes from the song Immortals, which was, speaking of Marvel and superheroes, was the soundtrack for the theme song for Big Hero 6. And in Immortals, there's a line that says, sometimes the only payoff for having any faith is when it's tested again and again every day. And I like to think that my life is a living testament to that. The type of faith I refer to isn't necessarily religious or spiritual, though it can be. The faith I have developed over the years is, you know, because, much like a Marvel character, everything's blessing curse, correct? So, you gain spider powers, but, the responsibility that it comes with it becomes unbearable and nearly breaks your life and your psyche. You get incredible strength and durability, and get unhinged and uncaged in your expression of rage, but that also is damaging your relationships and causing you to be on the run from the government, so forth and so on. You're a brilliant mind, but you're your own worst enemy, like Tony Stark, like, the X-Men in general, like blessing, curse. And so it's easy to focus on the curse aspect of being born with various maladies throughout your life, and having them worsen and become more aggressive as you age. But there's also just like the gift it gives me. And I think that, much like that Fall Out Boy quote, the payoff to having constant adversity is you get constant affirmation that you're a tough son of a bitch and you're not easily going down, right? Things that like can derail entire lives. And I do not mock or trivialize people's complications, but things that may hit someone who is unprepared or not well versed in dealing with such adversity, I can just sort of tank because whatever, like I've had worse. Reminds me of this dialogue exchange between Green Arrow and Black Canary and the Justice League Unlimited cartoon. Basically the episode deals with addiction, and like their friend, the superhero Wildcat, is become addicted to underground fighting and gambling, and so like Green Arrow gets in the ring with him to show him how far his problem has gotten. And Wildcat's just like, beating the crap out of him because that's the sport. And Arrow just keeps getting up like, yeah, I've had worse. And then Black Canary is just like, I wouldn't brag about that. It just always makes me laugh when I think about that scene. But in any case, yeah, like, rain or shine, whether my housing crisis does put me in a difficult spot, and whether or not my vision fails over time, whether or not my body fails over time, ultimately it has never been able to take away who I am as a person and how I move. And that's something that's all mine. That's something that's inside of me. That's something that is innate. Is a blessing, it is a curse. I'm just stubborn as fuck, and I refuse to concede. So, all that said, that's what I'll be doing today. I should be getting out of here shortly. I look forward to hopping back on later. We'll play some more Rivals. I will let the devil out. Also, shout out to Marvel Rivals, because it's been a great outlet through this whole process this past year. And I also have been taking advantage of long gaming sessions to just sort of like, A, for the mental health aspect, but also B, because, just in case, hand-eye coordination should change over the next, several years or whatever. Might as well soak it up now, see the things you want to see, do the things you want to do the way you want to do them. Because you never know when life's going to yank the cord. So all I wanted to say is that, hey, thanks, bro. Shout out to Star Cardinal, the older brother. As I referenced earlier, Star Cardinal also lives with sickle cell anemia. But yeah, yeah, I love little chibi Matt Murdock. He's so, he's still standing on business, but he's kind of adorable as he does it. Ray. But yeah, so yeah, the procedure is most likely going to be today. Technically, they do still have to look and redo some imaging to make sure that the appropriate laser, the one that was originally prescribed, is the one that we're still going to do and use today. And then once they make that assessment, we'll make decisions about which eye to start with, and what that recovery process is going to be. And I'll keep you posted. I should be in theory back live this evening. There's it's the 6.5 update for season 6 of Marvel Rivals. So excited for that. My homie, my boy, shout out to Star Cardinal for pointing this out to me, and shout out to Cozy Rivals for breaking this, and shout out to the dev team over at NetEase because they broke it first. But like, one of my favorite characters to play in the game, Adam Warlock, is finally being given the ability to fucking fly. Like, it's crazy, y'all. Adam Warlock was a launch character back in December of 2024 or whatever. And like one of his core abilities is flight. He's basically cosmic Superman, right? And over at Marvel Comics, and like they fucking gave him cosmic powers and shit, but they did not allow him to fucking fly, which I'm like, the fuck? Why would you do this? They made him the slowest character in the game. They gave him a casual jog, and that is his only that was his only like mobility, that he could jump like like an inch off the ground, and he can jog casually everywhere. And I'm like, why you do this? Why you do this to this man? It's like putting Superman in a game and being like, well, it would be unfair. It would be unbalanced if he could fly, so we're just not going to let him fly. I'm like, what the fuck? But I think Marvel Rivals was very nervous about having a strategist, which in that game are the characters who are able to heal and buff their teammates and debuff enemies. I think they were worried about a strategist that could fly. So they kind of eased into it. Ultron was their first foray into that. And even Ultron's flight abilities, when he was launched, were very much jank on purpose. Like, they just didn't want him to be able to be too fast and too nimble. And so, they kind of, I think after Ultron has been out for multiple seasons now, I think they've grown more comfortable, and they're finally like, okay, we've heard the complaints. Your boy Adam can now fly. He's live right now. His flight ability. If you turn on the game now, you can zip around as him. I don't know what it looks like. I don't know what it feels like. I'll be finding out live on stream later. But yeah, I'm very excited about that. Playing more Rivals, doing more stuff. Life goes on. And I do want to assure you that the fundraiser is going really well so far. I want to say thank you to everybody who's contributed. I want to also say that regardless of what happens with the fundraiser, whether we meet all of my various financial goals, even with none of the fundraiser money coming in, I was always going to be able to like tuck and roll. Like, ultimately, I have to be out of here, before 11:59 on February 28th. But ultimately, worst fucking case scenario is I put my things in fucking storage. I'm so fucking sick of storage. I put my things in fucking storage, and I move into like a very low rent studio apartment, or live out in Airbnb for a while, which is kind of how I started my journey here in Los Angeles anyway. I want to avoid that. It would cause a great amount of stress on my life. It would also really mean that I would probably stop streaming indefinitely. And it would cause a lot of health risk and complications. Obviously, different places you live, people, germs and environmental factors are different. So I remember that. Yes, I remember that. So yeah, I will. Sis had a funny comment about one of my Airbnbs I lived out of when I first moved here. But yeah, I'll be taking care of this one way or the other. But every contribution helps me. Hire a moving team. Hire, get help with cleaning out the apartment. Helps me to make new down payments on a new place, and just helps me survive. If you go to the link in the description above, which I'll repost here just in case, it's pinned above, but I'll paste it again. If you go to this link, you can donate, you can support. It gives you more details about some of the things that have happened along my journey thus far, and why I'm even in this position. Not the least of which is a dude literally supposed to like deliver my groceries just like ran off with them. It's wild out here, y'all. But gotta love LA. But no, I really do appreciate it because ultimately, I'm fairly on my own out here. I've made some friends and some contacts, but like LA life is constant hustle, constant grind, and is capitalism on steroids at all times. So everybody's just trying to get through the day, the week, trying to make their shit work. And so I don't really get a lot of interaction from like physical friends I've made out here, and which is why I'm hiring movers this time, because the first couple of times I moved in LA, oh my god, it was a whole thing. And I remember one time I moved from Koreatown to the place I live now, and like I lined up 5 individuals. Like I was going to school at this time. I was still going to IDSA. I had like 5 individuals, classmates and peers, and that was like, yeah, okay, like I need help moving. You guys got me? Like, yeah. And it came the day of, one of them got sick. And he still shout to the homie Kyle, because Kyle was like, I'll still show up. I'm like, bruh, do us both a favor. Please don't do that. You stay healthy and get well. Also, I really don't need to catch whatever you've got. Lower immune system over here. So thank you, but no thank you. And then, a number of other people were lined up, and really only one of them showed up. And he called like late. And it was just like, yo, are you still trying to move? Do you still help moving today? I'm like, yes, please. Shout out to the homie Fabian. You're a real one. Fabian showed up. First real friend I made out here in California. And I'll always love that man. I don't think we've seen each other in like 2 years, but like nothing but kind things to say about him. Really, really warm, genuine individual. So thank you for that. But this time around, I'm just like, no, I'm just going to hire people and be done with it. Hiring people is how I, kind of got out here anyways. But yeah, just with my health and everything going on, I want to be very clear as well before I go. The fundraiser is not designed to pay for the surgery to save my eyesight. I never want to like give you a misleading idea of what we're doing here. My insurance, in theory, does cover this procedure and will cover this procedure. As jank as Medicare and Medi-Cal can be, it will cover this procedure. But the reality is the timing of the procedure with the life events that are unfolding just make everything that much more difficult to manage. And with things happening to my eyes, things happening to my brain, things happening with migraines and sickle cell pains and my monthly apheresis, which I had yesterday, which takes a toll on recovery but also gives me a fighting chance to have a life in this world. With all of this going on, I'm just being real and saying I'm not going to pull it together by myself. And so I really, really do appreciate, you guys showing up for me, because I don't know, it's again, I'm built like my father and my mother, and that you can it's just that Terminator mentality that Dad always loved and admired about the very scary killing machine from the 1980s horror classic, sci-fi horror classic. But literally, like a Terminator, you could crush the lower half of my body, and I'll keep crawling. I will not be stopped unless you genuinely kill me. And despite sickle cell's many attempts and all of my ailments and their many attempts over the years to try and bring me to an early grave day after day, every day since I've been born, I gotta say, their win-loss record, not great. The Chicago Bears have a better win-loss record, and that's saying something. So I've survived 100% of my bad days, and whatever days may come will be no different, until one day it is. So for the time being, I just want to say thank you all so much for your support. Thank you, sis. I'm glad that I'm looking swell today. You know, apheresis is very wonky. Sometimes you're wrecked for, I'm wrecked for like 3 days, or in some real dire situations a week. Other times I go home the same day and I kind of feel and look like this. Yesterday I was pretty out of it, but today I'm pretty good. Later today I might not have energy. You know, that's the fun thing of this procedure and chronic illness in general. You just get to keep being surprised by what your body decides to do. All that said, I guess I'll take us to the big finish for this particular stream. Do I have anything for the... Yeah, we'll do this one. But yes, in any case, thank you so much for attending the stream. Like I said, the link is pinned here, is also in my Instagram bio, is also connected to the hard mode selected link tree. But if you'd like to help me out, I greatly appreciate it. I'm always over here preaching about like how community is the answer, and that, you know, the capitalism wants us to believe that we're on our own so that we're weaker and easier to manipulate. But if we band together, we can do amazing things, and that we can really help each other. And really, we are all we've got. And as much as I've shared that with this community, as much as I've always given everyone my well wishes and support and activism and done everything I can to lift other people up, it was still hard to be the one to ask for help. I just want to say shout out to Rowdy Ray Ray, shout out to Vishnu, shout out to Gothic Neko-chan, shout out to some other great people in my life who have demonstrated that you can still be a pillar of strength for others, but also ask for help, and have that vulnerability and allow people to show up for you. With that, I'll say the things I always say. Thanks for being here. It's this really fun, special, goofy thing we get to do together, and you really make it worthwhile for as long as we get to do it. I ask that you do, please, dear friend, take care of yourself. Drink your water, okay, which I need to do. Drink your water. Nourish yourself mentally, physically, and spiritually so you can be the healthiest version of you. Surround yourself with people who refill your meter, not take away from it. And always, 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 please, please, please do build something into your schedule worth looking forward to. Like, I don't know, a ridiculous Marvel Rivals play session. Because you'll be surprised how much it really makes a difference. Y'all have been the coolest kids at the party. And, you know me, I've been Phil Special Meter. Until next time, friends.